You know, that moment when you're sitting at a table full of people, eating freely, and you're just picking at your small list of safe foods, and you can't really explain why it feels so lonely. I've been there more than once, and I'm not here to complain. I'm here because I think a lot of us on a restrictive diet carry this around alone, and it helps to just name it. The isolation isn't dramatic. It's just there in the small moments every day, and that's worth talking about. It's really rainy today. It's very, very wet outside. So let me just start with the everyday stuff. You know how it goes. Someone invites you to dinner, and you have to check the menu first, or you already know you won't find anything you can eat, so just say no. Or you go and you watch everyone else order whatever they want, while you sit there asking questions about ingredients and modifications, and whether the sauce has this in it or that in it. And you can see it in their faces. They're a little annoyed, or they think you're being difficult. And you can't even explain that it's not about being difficult. It's not. It's just that your body doesn't handle certain food the same way. And you stop explaining after a while because you just stop. And the first time you explain, people listen. The second time, they nod. And by the third time, you can see they're done with it. So you either stay at home, or you just don't mention it anymore. And you just say you're not that hungry, or that you already ate, or you're just having water. And that works for a while, but it builds up, and the mental load of planning every single meal around restrictions becomes exhausting. And the constant calculation of what you can and cannot have means you can't just spontaneously grab food with someone, because you have to know exactly what's in it first. And that takes up so much space in your head. And here's what I keep coming back to. It's not just the physical restrictions. It's the space it takes up in your head. The planning, and the declining, and the explaining, and the adjusting. And on top of that, you're supposed to just live your life and show up for people and be present. But sometimes you're just tired from all of that, and you'd rather be alone with your safe foods and your simple meals than try to navigate another social situation where food is involved. And then there's the relationship side of things. This is where it gets harder, and I think this is a part that nobody really prepares you for, because your partner, your family, your friend, they don't always get why you can't just relax for one meal, and why you can't just eat whatever and deal with the consequences later. And they think you're being rigid, or that you're making a bigger deal out of it than it needs to be. And you can't really explain that it's not about willpower, and it's not about wanting to be restrictive. It's just that you know what happens when you eat the wrong thing, and you'd rather not deal with that. And the consequences aren't abstract, they're real. They mess with your head and your gut and your sleep and everything. So there's this friction that builds up over time. Your partner wants to go to that new restaurant, and you know you won't find anything there. So you suggest somewhere else, and they start to feel like you're always the one making things complicated. Or your family has dinner Sunday, and they cook this big meal, and you can only eat 2 things on the table. And you can feel them watching you pick at your plate and wondering if you're okay. You can feel yourself wanting to just disappear, so don't worry. And the guilt of making other people accommodate your diet, that's real too. You didn't ask for this, but your restrictions affect other people. And sometimes they have to change what they cook, or where they go, or how they plan their meal because of you. And the thing is, you understand why they are frustrated. You really do. And it would be easier if you could just eat normally, but you can't. And when people don't understand that it's not a choice, when they think you're just being stubborn or dramatic, it creates this wall between you, and you stop talking about it, and you stop telling them how hard it is, because explaining it again feels like too much. And that isolation is different from this social isolation, from declining invitations. This one is closer and more personal, and it's a feeling that the people who are supposed to know your best don't really get what you're going through. So you learn to just deal with it on your own. You find your own reasons to stay on the diet, because you can't depend on anyone else to keep you motivated. So, you know what it does for you when you eat the right way. You feel better. Your symptoms improve. You have more energy, or less pain, or whatever it is that made you start this in the first place. And you hold on to that. You remind yourself why you're doing it, even when it would be so much easier for you to just quit and eat what everyone else is eating. And here's the thing that took me a long time to realize. There's a loneliness to doing it alone, because you can't call someone up and say, "Hey, I stayed on my diet today. I'm really proud of myself." And people don't get why that would be a big deal. And I keep thinking about how it's not just one meal. It's every meal. It's every day. It's the accumulation of all those small choices that add up to something bigger. nobody else sees that, when nobody else recognizes the effort you're putting in, you can feel kind of invisible, like you're doing this huge thing and nobody even notices. And I want to be honest with you about something, because there's something almost protective about doing it alone. And when you know you can't count on other people for support, you build this internal strength, and you learn to motivate yourself, and you learn to celebrate your own wins, even if they're small. But I'm still figuring out if that's a good thing or a bad thing. Maybe it's both. Maybe just the reality, what it means to follow a restrictive medical diet for a long time, and you become your own support system, which is necessary, but it also means you're carrying more of the weight by yourself. And I think that's worth sitting with you for a moment. And I also think there's something else nobody really talks about, which is how the diet becomes part of your identity after a while. And you start to feel like if you give it up, you're giving up part of yourself. And that's a whole other layer of complexity that I don't have answers to. I just know it's there. Anyway, that's just what's been on my mind. I don't have any grand conclusions or tips to share. I just think it's important to acknowledge that this is real. And if you're feeling it too, you're not alone in it.